Dave, this is a good time to take a turn and put on my serious face because I'd asked you yesterday to look at the Atlantic article that talked about how this could be the most dangerous election of all time. And I've had a couple of questions. One question is, if Donald Trump contests the election and refuses to concede, refuses to leave the White House, who arrests him? Same with the Attorney General of the United States. If the Attorney General of the United States works aggressively to obstruct the will of the people, who arrests the Attorney of the United States? And again, this is just, again, we're having to war game this because, of course, those two especially are suggesting they're not going to leave. And finally, from that Atlantic article, what are the legal challenges that you really see out there that we're going to be facing in the months after the election, after November the 3rd, if Donald Trump tries to block the will of the people?
Well, good morning, Joe. If Biden wins, the moment that he takes the oath of office on January 20th, 2021, is the moment that the Trump presidency ends, regardless of whether Trump attends the inauguration or not. And so if he lingers in the White House, that he can be removed by the Secret Service or other federal agents because he's going to be a private citizen like everyone else. He can also be arrested for criminal trespass. He doesn't enjoy the Department of Justice's internal memorandum anymore that protects a sitting president from being charged or indicted. So there is that. Christopher Wray, the FBI director, may want to make the arrest himself, considering animosity between the two. And as far as Bill Barr, remember, Nixon's attorney general had to serve prison time because of obstruction of justice. So this could come after the election when there's a review of his activities, and he could face federal charges based on his conduct. We'll have to see. And as far as the Atlantic article, you know, I am less pessimistic than many about what's going to happen, because for those type of shenanigans to occur where the Republican legislatures appoint their own electors to push forward Trump, regardless of what the public said, that would require, number one, a close election, which, as you saw from the polls, looks like it may not happen. I mean, Biden is ahead in recent polls in Ohio, which counts its absentee ballots at the beginning. If Biden can win in Ohio, game over. It's a red state that counts absentee ballots right away, and you don't need to wait for a blue shift. Same thing with Florida. As Casey Hunt correctly pointed out, Florida counts its absentee ballots even before the election. That's why Michael Bloomberg put $100 million in, because he knows that if you win Ohio and Florida right away, the gig is up. And then there's also other things like, you know, there are Democratic governors in some of those swing states with Republican legislatures, like in Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, Wisconsin, that even if the legislatures vote to install Trump electors against the will of the people, the Democratic governors can veto it. And in those states, they don't have enough Republican legislators to override a governor's veto. You know, a lot of this stuff has been tried before. Joe, you remember 2000? The Speaker of the House actually tried to install George W. Bush electors while the recount was ongoing. But it was the Senate president, you probably know him, John McKay, who deserves a shout out here, who said no to that. Because one thing that politicians are good at is self-preservation, and they know how treacherous it is to overturn the will of their constituents. And then finally, Joe, the Supreme Court would have to sanction this stuff. And what's to say that the same Supreme Court that ruled 7-2 against Trump on his taxes, including Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, whom Trump appointed, would roll over and allow these type of shenanigans to occur? They've got lifetime appointment on the Supreme Court. They don't need President Trump anymore. So a lot of this controversy was started by a Trump legal advisor who boasted about this strategy. But I think that's what they want us to talk about. They want us to be demoralized and to lose faith in our democracy. The best response to that is to vote.
Caddy K has a question for you. Caddy.
Yeah, David, thanks for spelling, because that's what I was kind of talking about earlier. You've spelled out the reasons why this kind of notion of a red mirage may not actually happen. There are enough states that actually count early, that are used to counting, and that could get all the ballots counted, the mail-in ballots counted on election day. Then you've got the states' governors who might override any shenanigans that the state senates might try to put in place. So do you think then, to your last comment, and this is what I'm starting to wonder, all of this is really just an attempt to suppress turnout on the Democratic side by undermining faith in the election. And the president doesn't necessarily believe any of this is going to happen, but hey, why not, given how tight these polls are, why not just say anything you can to make people talk about this? And then there will be some voters out there who say, you know what, maybe it's not worth me standing in line on election day because it's not going to count anyway.
Caddy, you got it. I think part of the strategy is to discourage and demoralize Democrats. It is a form of voter suppression. There's a lot of voter suppression out there. It's very real. You see it in Florida with attempts to prevent ex-felons from voting. In Florida, the attorney general is now trying to make a criminal referral to the FBI because Michael Bloomberg is trying to pay off the court costs and fees to allow ex-felons to register to vote. And it's clearly not illegal. Some would call that a mitzvah. That's a very technical legal term. But we must be very careful when we do this to ourselves, when we talk about all the shenanigans that the Republicans are going to pull. My own mother insists, and she has a wager with me, a legal wager at that Biden will win the election, but Trump will remain in office. Democrats have been beaten down so much. And I think it's PTSD from the last election when we were so certain that the Democrats were going to win and Hillary lost, that we're thinking of the worst case scenario. I think this is the kind of conversation that the Trump team wants us to have. They want us to believe that nothing we can do can change the election. So why even bother? We must not fall into that trap.
Dave Aronberg, great advice. Thank you so much for all the information you brought to us. I really appreciate it.